Well, hello, IDS 104 students, and welcome to week 2, module 2 in your IDS 104 course. This week's webinar is going to talk to you about mindset and community, how you can grow, connect, and thrive in diverse spaces. As always, your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It's our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of instruction or course design that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the Online Accessibility Center, the OAC, as soon as possible at 866-305-9430, or you can email them at oac@snhu.edu or visit their Online Accessibility Center website. As a reminder, the OAC team here at SNHU is in place to help learners just like you get content, classroom content, or other things that work best for you and your learning style. If you have questions about this, please reach out directly to the OAC team. A couple of webinar reminders. As always, when you interact with the webinar recording links or live, they are always considered an academic space. In addition, SNHU Connect is also an academic space, so always be mindful of your conduct. These webinars are not graded or required, but you will hopefully learn about how to do assignments from week to week and or go over concepts we are working on in your course. As a reminder, these webinar sessions are typically on demand for IDS 104, which means they've been pre-recorded and posted to the First Year Experience YouTube channel playlist for IDS 104, and they're available every single Monday morning when you start a new module. If we do have any live sessions, those are always also recorded, and those are accessible through the Teams link. Please check your SNHU email and or your course announcements and stay on top of your IDS 104 learning community for information about any live sessions. All right, y'all, week 2, we're here. How did it go last week? Like, take a minute and think about, like, what's one thing that went really good? Like, just say it out loud. Like, hey, got my homework done. I turned my stuff in on time. I managed my time effectively. That you did it. You're still here. Just remember, like, what is one thing that went well, and what is one thing maybe you want to work on? Maybe your schedule got away from you. So maybe this week you could try to do a really good job of like planning out some study time. Or maybe you were like, gosh, I spent a lot of time on those writing assignments or discussions. I really need some support there. Maybe work with the academic support in the written feedback service. It's just a really great resource for your success. So just know, y'all, it can take a minute to get into a routine and really feel like you have found your footing when you've added school to an already busy schedule. So if you're stuck or you have questions, like, don't forget you have so many resources here at SNHU. Reach out to your course instructor, reach out to your SNHU advisor. We are here for your success, okay? So week 2, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about what is a growth mindset versus what is a fixed mindset. We're going to talk about the importance of cultural awareness. We're going to talk about inclusive communities, SNHU resources to use for your success, and then I'm going to walk you through your week 2 module 2 assignments, okay? So first and foremost, a growth mindset. This is going to be a heavy topic and a big topic for you here in week 2, but it's also going to carry on throughout your term. So it's really important that you understand what a growth mindset is. A growth mindset, by definition, is the belief that abilities, intelligence, and skills can be developed over time with effort, good strategies, and feedback from others. So a growth mindset, really, the nuts and bolts of it are that you are willing to learn. You are willing to change and grow and learn to be even better. Growth mindset in action is really just kind of taking a minute. And for example, if you are starting a new concept or a new assignment, let's use the academic world, and you don't yet understand something, it is speaking to yourself with more like, hey, this is new. I'm still learning. I don't understand this yet, but I will. With practice and dedication and getting to understand it or using your resources, right, you will eventually understand it. Feedback is a huge part of growth mindset. It is where you are seeking that feedback for like how you're doing, where you can improve, what you're doing well, what you need to work on, and then making actionable changes to get even better. And another part of growth mindset is to celebrate progress, not just results. Sometimes when we set a goal, like I want to, for example, have an A in the class, like that is such a good goal. but what are the things that we're doing along the way that is progress and steps to get us to that A that can keep us motivated and we can celebrate along the way. Maybe you turned in an assignment and you did great on it. Maybe you were struggling with your time management and now you have like a plan for your homework and, academic life, personal life, work life, and you're just feeling a little bit more balanced. Like celebrate those wins along the way. On the opposite end of things, a fixed mindset. What is it? If you're not familiar with a fixed mindset is really just believing that what is set is what it is, and no matter what you do, it's not going to change. So that belief that abilities and intelligence are set in someone or yourself and that they're just not going to change. Fixed mindset often sees effort as a sign of weakness or a lack of ability. Fixed mindset, you can often feel threatened by other successes. Fixed mindsets are when you get constructive feedback like, hey, Melanie, you do such a great job of this. However, in this area, we seem to maybe need some, a little bit of room for improvement. Here's some ideas of how you can do that. If you're like, yeah, nope, or you don't hear that, or you're not willing to do anything with that feedback, that's an example of fixed mindset. It's also, avoiding things that are uncomfortable or avoiding challenges because you don't want to fail. Sometimes we have to fail to learn and to get better. So a fixed mindset, y'all, is just in a nutshell, more of like that negative mindset. Like, this is just what it is. No matter what I do, it's not going to change. Gosh, it looks like they do so amazing. Wish that could be me, but you're not making any effort to change. You're not taking that feedback, right? Or that growth mindset is more of the progress that, it's not always positive. I mean, it can take a minute to become positive, but a growth mindset is more like, all right, like I see that I am improving. I see that I am willing to learn. I am asking how I can do better and putting those things into place. Just being maybe a little bit more open-minded too. Which brings us to cultural awareness. So as y'all know, I mean, our world is a melting pot of diversity, right? We have folks from all over the world, all different backgrounds, all different beliefs, all different cultures. It is just, we have a whole variety of amazing humans that surround us. And it's so important, especially in the online space, because you don't get to see these people that you work with here at SNHU and departments or your classmates or your faculty. You don't get to see them in person, right? Everything is done in this online space. So you don't really get to see them. You just get to see what they do or what they write, right? So it's so important to understand and be aware that there will always be people in any space that are different than you, and understanding that, but also respecting those diverse backgrounds, okay? It's important to be aware of in our classroom spaces, but also in our everyday life, just how it is key for us to understand and recognize those different perspectives and traditions. How you may do something, somebody you're working with in your class may do it completely different, but yet you can still arrive at the same result. So it's being open and willing to learn and see those different perspectives. And it's also reducing any bias or assumptions that you may have. Sometimes when we're not familiar with somebody who has a different background than us or a different culture than us or a different upbringing than us, we might just assume, well, this is why they do that. It's because they're from here or because this is how they grew up. Take a minute, pause, and be like, you know what? I've never ever worked with somebody that's from this area or from this background or believes this, and take the opportunity to learn. Putting that all together just helps you be more culturally aware, and it also helps you learn just how to be in our digital spaces, right? So a couple of examples of how to practice that cultural awareness is to always listen actively to others' experiences. You will come across people in your everyday life. It could be outside the classroom, inside the classroom, that they just have wholeheartedly different experiences than you. And we can always learn from what others go through. And if it's something that maybe you're unfamiliar with, or maybe you might not even agree with, but you want to know more about it to understand, that seek to understand, ask those respectful questions in a way that'll help you learn more about them and their background. Also, always be mindful of language and tone, y'all. This is so important, especially in our digital spaces. As an example, I'm a huge fan of the explanation point. I get excited. I have a lot of energy. And that explanation point is like my favorite thing. Well, I had once had a colleague that was like, Melanie, I feel like you're yelling at me when you use those explanation points. Like it was an urgent thing to them. Like they felt like I was upset with them. Or like if you send something in all caps, it's like you're excited or you're angry, right? Things like that, especially in our digital spaces. That's such a minor example, but it's just things to be aware of and to be mindful of, because when we are in these digital spaces, again, you're not in person. So how you write, text, post, what you do, your tone and language come through in the way that you put that together. The other way to practice cultural awareness, of course, is to be inclusive of others. Be open-minded, include everyone, and make sure that there's accessibility for everyone. So we're going to learn a lot about inclusive communities this week. And so a lot of students are like, well, what does that mean to have be a part or create these inclusive communities? It just means inclusion means making sure that everyone feels valued and heard, so that there's a space for everybody, there's a seat for everybody at the table, right? Why do we want to do this? Well, when we have a seat for everybody at the table and everybody feels valued and heard, it allows for stronger collaboration, more ideas, usually better ideas, and also more effective problem solving if you're trying to tackle and look for a solution. Okay, so how can you be a part in helping to build these inclusive communities here at SNHU, right? Let's talk about the classroom. One is to always engage and be respectful in your dialogue and those discussion boards, right? Like I said, we will have students that are very different from us, very different backgrounds. It could be age, gender. I mean, the list goes on, right? We have a lot of diversity. So there will be things that'll be new for you, things that maybe you don't agree with, things that you don't understand. So always make sure when you're engaging, be respectful. Also, support classmates in group work. As you navigate different courses here at SNHU, you may have some group projects, and we all know what group projects can be like sometimes, right? So make sure that everybody feels valued and heard, and everybody has that support. 3, recognize and amplify others' contributions. We always have things that we are good at, and we have things that we're not so good at. So when you are working with others, recognize those in each other and delegate the tasks for those abilities. Number 4 is to be aware of any accessibility needs. This is really key, especially in the online environment. The online course environment gives so many options for every kind of learner. And sometimes we may not understand that there's an accessibility need out there. So always make sure that you're asking those questions, and just again, really making sure that everybody feels valued and heard and has a seat in the conversation, okay? What are some SNHU resources to support you as you navigate communities and navigate your classwork here in week 2? One, I want to remind you that you have the amazing academic support team. So if you are struggling with any of your assignments and maybe need some tutoring, don't forget that we have several different tutoring options. A lot of students really like that 24/7 tutoring to ask those general questions, because it's literally just a click away and you'll connect with a tutor. Written feedback is an amazing resource for students all the time, any class. You can submit any SNHU writing assignment. So it could be journals, short papers, project drafts, discussions, all of those kinds of things, essays, whatever it might be. You submit that via the academic support link. Click on academic support, click on written feedback when that menu of services pull up, and there'll be a little questionnaire that asks you what you want the tutor to focus on. Be specific, and you'll get dedicated feedback within 12 hours, okay? The library is such an amazing resource, especially if you have questions about how to cite any work, or you want to do any research stuff. We have an incredible library. The bookstore, the IT, and the service desk are all here to support your success. We also have the SNHU Wellness. That is a spot where you can actually click on SNHU Wellness. There's a ton of resources in there for students, from anything from mental health resources to stress management, how to manage your time. There's a lot of really great resources in there that, again, are a click away. Plus, we have the Online Accessibility Center, which I talked a little about earlier in the webinar session. They're here to help learners get content in a way that works best for their learning style. And y'all, do not forget about those incredible advisors. If you are stuck, if you have questions, if you want to know more about something, I always tell students, if it's not class related, specific to the course that you're in, that's where you want to always talk to your instructor. But if it's like about anything else, always go to advising because there's such a wealth of knowledge that can get you connected to where you need to be. And also, you have a ton of community here at SNHU. So I know sometimes when you're an online student, you're like, oh, that's not really for me. Like, I'm not, on campus. We have so many wonderful ways for online students to get involved. We have the clubs, we have the organizations, we have student SNHU events that you can participate in from an online capacity, but also some of our events for students travel to different communities in different cities. So always keep an eye on that calendar and check your university email so you know if anything is coming close to you, okay? So kind of just putting things together here for week 2 before I go through all of your assignments is just a reminder that when you have that growth mindset, it fuels your learning. It's just working to make you better, right? Remember that cultural awareness builds understanding, that inclusion strengthens community, and you have so many resources here at SNHU to help you be successful as you work towards your academic goals, okay? So this week for week 2, you have 2 assignments. So you have a journal assignment and you have an activity assignment, okay? Both of these assignments are due by Sunday of this week, week 2, module 2, or earlier as convenient for your schedule. As a reminder, having Microsoft Word or a compatible program so that you can upload and submit your assignments when they're completed and your faculty member can open them and grade them is so important. As a reminder, as an SNHU student, you do get Office 365 for free, and that has Microsoft Word within it, in addition to PowerPoint, Excel, all the kind of fun things that you might need, okay? So for this journal assignment, you are literally going to be opening up a blank Word document, and you're going to be answering a series of questions. I'm going to go through that here in a second when I share the classroom space. When you complete this assignment, it should be about 1 to 2 pages, okay? The activity assignment, there is actually a template that you are going to use. So it's a document that's already created that you're going to open up and you're going to type right in it to fill it out. For the activity assignment, you do need to click on the list of communities that are under supporting materials to utilize for your success in answering the questions for the activity assignment, okay? So again, journal assignment and activity assignment, both are due by Sunday of week 2, module 2, or before as convenient for your schedule. You do need to have that Microsoft Word. The activity assignment has a template. The journal, it's a blank document. You're just answering the questions, okay? So I am going to actually close out of this real quick because I want to go into the classroom environment. So first and foremost, I want to show you just a couple of things. One, up at the top, my menu bar might look a little bit different because this is the faculty view. So some things look a little bit different. So don't panic if you see something different than what you have on your screen. But I want to remind you the Shapiro Library, when you click that little arrow, has the library homepage in addition to any resource guides or also these incredible source guides for citations, okay? Underneath academic support, as always, if you click on academic support, when you click on that, it opens up their menu of services. Here's that 24/7 drop-in tutoring. You just click on Connect Now. Written feedback is where you clicked on Submit a Draft, and then you're going to upload those writing assignments, select the areas, be specific that you want the tutor to focus on, and you get feedback within 12 hours. I also wanted to point out there's a ton of workshops. There's a giant list of them that you can attend. Always sign up for them if they interest you or you want to know more about them, because even if you maybe can't make it, they're recorded and you'll get an email with that recording that comes to you when it's done. So that's just really a cool thing I wanted to remind you of. Also, you have this help area. When you click on the little arrow and you click on online student services, it is going to pull up all of the different departments and teams that are here at SNHU. So quick access links, bookstore, advising, academic support is here again. You have the library, financial services. If you scroll down, you'll see SNHU Connect. You can click on that to find the learning communities. We are on the academic side. The social side of SNHU Connect hosts all the clubs and organizations. The academic side has the IDS 104 learning community, okay? You have career services, and then here is that SNHU wellness that I was talking about. There's a lot of wellness support resources that are available for SNHU students. But what I wanted to highlight is this Office 365 and other software. This is where you always click the blue, gets you to where you want to go, and you'll be able to download Office 365 to your system. And Office 365 has that PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, Microsoft Word. If you get stuck, you're not sure how to get this, you can always connect with our IT help desk and they'll get you all set. Okay, so really quick, I wanted to show you just a couple of things. One is a reminder, Course menu. You can always find your course announcements. Make sure y'all are checking those every week throughout the week, in addition to your SNHU email. That is how the university communicates with you. This is how your instructor is going to talk to you and give you tips for your success and reminders on assignments and the content you're talking about from week to week, okay? Quick links too, of course, for grades. You can quickly get to any discussion assignments that you might need. You don't have that for this week. And then, of course, we always have learning modules, right? When you click on learning modules, it opens up the overview where you can click on all the links. I want to remind you about the Start Here area of your classroom. Just as a reminder, in case you missed it in the first week, we're here in week 2, but there is a copy of your IDS 104 syllabus here, some great videos about SNHU's general education program. But what I really wanted to point out as a reminder is that, of course, we have the learning community here, but the LinkedIn Learning. So for LinkedIn Learning, just as a reminder, you do have this as part of your course. You don't have a course textbook. You have everything embedded here in your class. I just wanted to remind you there's this whole section on LinkedIn Learning in case you're stuck or have questions on how to access any of that content that you might have for this week, okay? So let's take a look quick at Module 2. Just as a reminder, y'all, click the blue, always review the introduction, right? It's going to go over the learning objectives for the week. It's going to talk about the module overview. Scroll down, arrow over. When you do that, of course, it's going to start to guide you through the content for the week's module. There's a lot of reading actually within the module, so don't miss this section. Sometimes students just click right over it. So make sure that you are reviewing the reading that is actually within the module. And then, of course, as you arrow over, it's going to bring you to any required resources that you need to review. So as a reminder, you always click the blue. It gets you to where you want to go. So you'll notice I click that, it brings up what I'm supposed to be reading, okay? So just look and see, I'm supposed to be reading 8.3 and 8.4, okay? So when you click on them again, you will see what you're supposed to be reading. Here's 8.3. That way it just helps you understand what you're supposed to be reviewing. You'll also see on here too, there'll be some videos. You just click directly on that and it's going to pull up that information, okay? So I just wanted to show you just a couple of those things so you know just how to click on them. But I wanted to focus in on this week's assignments, of course. As you scroll down again, there's a quick link, direct access to the 104 learning community, and then right here is kind of the SNHU Connect, that social side that's out there too. When you arrow over, it's going to bring you to the very first assignment, which is your journal assignment. Again, the journal assignment and activity assignment are due by Sunday or before is convenient for your schedule. Always click on guidelines and rubric because that is going to bring up an overview of the actual assignment, okay? So you will see here you have an overview and then you have directions. So this week's journal assignment, you are answering these questions right here, okay? These are the questions that you're answering. So we just talked about growth mindsets and fixed mindsets, didn't we? What I want you to pay attention to is underneath what to submit, this tells you what to do. So for this assignment, you are literally just opening up a Microsoft Word document, blank document, and you are going to be answering these questions from above. It reminds you, double spaced. Again, this should be about 1 to 2 pages. It's okay if you go into 3, but y'all, it really shouldn't be longer than that. Stay relevant to the topic at hand. Use details, use examples, review the required resources, use your own experiences to help you answer questions too. But again, 1 to 2 pages. It really shouldn't be longer than that because you shouldn't have to have it longer than that. Again, it says double spacing, 12-point times New Roman font, and 1-inch margins. If you use any information that is not your own original thought, remember you want to cite those sources. The library has great citation resources, and you want to do that according to APA style. Now, I did want to note for this journal assignment that you could use video note to submit this assignment. However, please note that there is a series of requirements that you have to do for this. So underneath the Start Here area of the class is a whole section on video note, what to do, what it should look like, and what are the requirements. It's not just as simple as like opening up a video and answering the questions and submitting it. That's not going to fly. There's a bunch of steps you have to go through, and your video shouldn't be longer than 5 minutes. It should be about 2 to 5 minutes. So if you decide to use video note, know that you need to go to the Start Here area of your module and review what the expectations are. Otherwise, most students just do the 1 to 2 page Microsoft Word document, okay? So again, these are the questions that you're answering. Once you get those submitted, You want to make sure you upload them underneath the journal assignment for week 2 so your faculty member can grade them. Couple of tips. Sometimes I have students copy and paste these questions into the Word document, and then they kind of just answer them from there. That is totally fine as long as you're writing in complete sentences using details and examples. Sometimes students like to write it more in an essay type format. Whatever works best for you. The key is making sure that you've answered all pieces and parts of each question. Okay, so that is at the Module 2 journal assignment. And then I want to go over the activity assignment. So the activity assignment, again, is due by Sunday or before as convenient for your schedule. Again, when you go to the activity assignment, you're going to have an overview of what you're doing. You're going to have directions. So for this assignment, it's really important to understand that 1, you have a template, and 2, you need to reference the list of communities. So you will see right here, it tells you in the directions that you need to look under supporting materials. So you are answering these 5 questions right here. This is what you are answering. Okay, but I want to point out that under what to submit, you'll see this Module 2 activity template. So when you click on the blue, it gets you to where you want to go, and it opens up the actual template for your assignment. So for most of you, you'll need to click on Enable Editing. And when you do that, you can type directly in this document. So you'll notice here that you're also supposed to pick a community, right? So that list of communities is under supporting materials. Click on list of communities. When you do that, it opens up a Word document directly. Sorry, there it is. And you will see this list. So you'll see digital community examples, in-person community examples. So this list examples that you can use for the assignment as you're answering the questions, okay? So the template has for you, number 1 is you have to make sure for each of these communities, so you have a digital community and an in-person community, that you're answering all 3 of these for each of them. So for the digital community, for example, you are describing like the community's purpose, what kind of their members might be like, and how you would participate in this community. So you're just picking one of those from the list of the digital community. So over here, maybe you're going to do a learning community, like the IDS 104 learning community could be a great example. Or maybe it's something else that you want to pick from. And then you want to pick an in-person community, just one. So one for each. And then you're answering those same questions about that in-person community. So again, for digital and in-person, you need to say its purpose, typical members, and how you would participate. Again, complete sentences, use details, use examples so your thoughts are clear, right? And then again, you have question 2. So for each of these communities, again, you are going to identify at least one cultural factor that shapes how people engage in the community. And then you have question 3, question 4, question 5, okay? So just double check your details, make sure you have all pieces and parts for each question, reference that list again of the digital communities and the in-person communities. And again, I'm going to show you where that's at. Underneath the activity, you have the directions under what to submit. Click the blue, it'll download the template. Again, it's a Microsoft Word document. So if you don't have Microsoft Word or something compatible, you want to make sure that you get that. You get Office 365 for free as an SNHU student, and you are referencing this list of communities. Click the blue, gets you where you want to go, and it's going to bring that up on your system, okay? So those are the 2 assignments that you have here for week 2, module 2. So again, activity assignment and the journal assignment, both due by Sunday or as convenient for your schedule. As a reminder, if you want to watch this webinar again, or you want some assignment help, because there's some really quick focus videos that walk you through both of these different assignments, this is a reminder where you can find the focus videos and webinars on our First Year Experience YouTube page for the IDS 104 learning community. Y'all, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me for this webinar session. As always, if you have any questions about your assignments this week, always first go directly to your course instructor. You can always post a question too in the IDS 104 learning community. If you need anything or you're stuck, y'all do not hesitate to reach out. I hope you have an incredible, amazing week 2, module 2, and just know that we believe in you here at SNHU, and you 100% got this. You got this, y'all. Have a wonderful week 2.